Hello, you. How do you renew your non-lucrative visa for Spain? And how much money do you need in savings or passive income to do it? I'll be joined shortly on the virtual settee of YouTooSpain by our friend and yours, residency specialist. It's the new teeth. Chris from Upsticks.es. Yes, and he'll tell you exactly what three of the biggest foreigners' offices in the south of Spain confirmed with him in official letters very recently. Yes, we have the up-to-date information right from the horse's mouth, so stick around and ask questions in the live chat or in the comments below, and we'll get you the answers you need. In the meantime, gather round. It's time for our small but perfectly formed cosmic theme tune. Let's do the dance. Here goes. So before I bring in Chris, two very pieces of important information just for you. Number one, check out our really helpful website, YouTooSpain.com, for more amazing information, blog articles and resources just for you. There's a free newsletter every month if you subscribe to that. Number two, all of this helpful information and fun that you get from YouTooSpain and from Upsticks.es, it's absolutely free on here, but if you appreciate the value of it on here, please help us to continue doing it by using the links in the video description below, where you can get discounts on vital services that you need for your move to Spain and your life here. And also use Upsticks as well. All of these tried and tested friendly companies that are down below support us every time you use the links, and that doesn't cost you a penny. For example, get a free account with Smart Currency Exchange, so you can fix a forward exchange rate for when you're changing your money into euros, whether it's for buying a house or moving or sending your pension or investment money or just paying your utility bills. And they can do all of that for you. And finally, if you think I look like I need a coffee, then you can send me a donation. I think I do this morning. Send a donation for as little or as much as you want. There are two links below for that. There's patreon.com, and you can do a regular monthly amount on there if you want. And there's buymeacoffee.com. There you go. So those are the messages. So without further ado, let's meet our wonderful guest for the day. It's Chris from Upsticks. Hola, Chris.
Hola, good morning.
How are you doing? Sound like you've got a cold there.
Yeah, a little bit. General. The flu, I think everybody's had it, haven't they? This flu thing that's going about.
Yeah. There's been a huskiness going on, so we're all going to be coughing and hacking throughout this show. Hope that doesn't put you off. Let's see. We had one of your customers and one of our biggest fans, John Bentley, was on the YouTooSpain community the other day saying NLV, NIE, TIE are now all completed. Yay! Thanks to Upsticks.es and the YouTooSpain community. Now for some R&R. So there you go.
John did really well. John did really well, as I say, with work. He put a lot of effort into working and got his visa through first time. And he met our agent Tom this week and got it signed up. So job done.
Brilliant. We'll have to have a get together of all of the successful clients. I don't know if we'll have to find a very big room, won't we? Certainly all of the ones that have come through us to you. It would be good to have a gathering.
A field. We need a field. That's what we need.
Just have a festival. We'll book Paolo Nutini and just have a festival. There we go. Have you got any shout outs?
Yeah, we've got some renewals actually through from clients. We never do the renewal shout outs, but while we are, we've got the Campbell family got renewed yesterday. They got theirs through. They're taking an immense amount of time to come through, unfortunately, the renewals, which is quite frustrating. And we had some through go in Lanzarote as well. Our first ones that got renewed, they were clients of ours. I believe they watched the show as well, the Moran family, and they just got their renewal through 2 days ago, actually, in Lanzarote again. Believe it or not, I know we always talk about this fabulous 90 days in which they're supposed to respond, but it took them a lot longer than 90 days to respond, but they did, and they got it. So well done to you guys.
Excellent, brilliant. Big hello to all of you. And
there's another renewal, and the Webster family as well, who do watch here from Almeria. And they came through the channel, I believe, and then we did their renewal, and they had an awful time with the renewal for some reason. We had to go to a third submission, which isn't normal, but they got it this week as well. So I'd like to say congratulations to them.
Brilliant. And we have Anton Kez, AK Mitchell, on the live chat saying, "Hola from an FFF." He says, not swearing or stuttering, it's freezing, foggy France. Tee-hee-hee. That's lovely. And Mad David is on there. He says he's dancing. Lovely. Well done. And Bev says, good morning. Had a wonderful holiday in Fuerteventura, back in cold, grim London now. Oh dear. There we go.
Nice.
So, right then. There's been a bit of lively debate on social media recently. And, well, it's been going on for quite a while, actually, about renewing the non-lucrative visa and the financial requirements, especially for that. Some people saying you need 2 years worth of money, others saying you can do it with just 1 year's worth. So let's start off by talking briefly about IPREM for people who don't know what that means, because that's how the financial requirement is worked out. So very quickly, what's IPREM and how much is it for this year?
Yeah, so IPREM is basically it's the calculating factor that the government use here in Spain to calculate things like unemployment benefits. It's the minimum cost pensions and stuff like that. There was back in the day in 2004, IPREM was used to calculate everything like salaries and stuff as well in Spain. We have these things called convenios where certain professions get paid a certain amount. That's split. They split from, there's one thing that's called interprofessional minimum salary, and there's IPREM on the other side. So IPREM does everything which is sort of pensiony based, should we say, or dole payments and employment payments, and the other side is the professional stuff. So using this figure, immigration take a base figure using IPREM to then calculate how much you need to survive on for a non-lucrative visa. Mm-hmm. IPREM at the moment is at 600 a month. For third country nationals is 4 times that amount which they expect you to have to survive, which is 2,400 euros for an individual person for a month.
And so people talk about 400% IPREM. So let's just, for those of you that don't get percentages, that just means, like Chris said, 4 times the IPREM amount. So, and I think it's important to think about it as a monthly amount rather than a yearly amount, because this 400 or 800% IPREM that you need for 2 years is easier to work out and easier to think about, I think, if you look at it as a monthly amount. And
that's correct. You're absolutely right. And what we're going to go through today is how, because what you've got to look at is that immigration look at it as a monthly amount as well. Mm-hmm. It's the interpretation of that. So they look at it as a monthly amount. It's not often that they've had such an influx of people who are using the non-lucrative visa using savings. You know, so they look at it as a monthly amount. So it's very important to look at it as a monthly amount, albeit probably 70% of applicants are actually using savings to get into Spain on the non-lucrative visa.
Mm-hmm. Just a little note from Big Tam on here. New to the site, looking at moving to Spain this year using NLV. Made an appointment on your site, Chris, and hadn't had a confirmation, and also sent an email using this website, Contact Help. He says, can you just tell us your name, Big Tam, so that Chris can have a search for that at some point after the show.
Yeah, drop us an email to, if you haven't had a conversation, you should have had an automatic confirmation. So if you haven't got one, drop an email to support@upsticks.es and we'll search for it there.
There we go. It's Tom Connor, he says. There we go. All right, then. Chris will sort that out for you.
Yeah.
If not today, it'll be Monday. Lovely. So let's move on to these. You've had some official letters that you asked for at Almeria, Alicante and Malaga extranjerías. So let's talk about those. Shall I put the Malaga one up on screen? That's the one that's the clearest. Yeah. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so, well, these actually letters that have come from when we've submitted, these 3 letters have come from when we've submitted documents and immigration haven't been happy with the first submission of documents and come in requesting more proof of funds for the renewal. Happily, I can say that all these letters were resolved and we managed to get the renewals, but they're a really good example of what happens when you do present maybe less than 2 years worth of money. So as we can see from the excuse me, obviously from the first one there, Malaga, which is probably the clearest one. I know there's been a lot of debate on whether you have to have a year or 2 years worth of money, and it's probably worth explaining the difference between monthly and the savings. But you can see here in Malaga that they quite clearly want to see 2 years worth of money. It actually says there on the last column of that.
Para dos años, there it is.
Yeah, that's last year's figures, because these letters came last year. Obviously, we haven't had any, and hope not to have any of these this year.
Yep.
For the renewal period in Malaga, it actually shows you there the figures that they're looking for. If you're a single applicant, number 2 would be a couple, number 3 would be a family of 3, and obviously 4 a family of 4. So that family of 4 has actually gone up to 100,800 euros now with a new so it's topped the 100,000 mark for the new 2 years.
Mensual there means monthly. I'll just point that
That's
out.
correct. Yeah. So so what we can see there is obviously they give. Now it's important to understand that monthly passive recurring income, i.e. a pension, or if you have proof of receiving rental income or something like that. Dividends is something as well that we can go on to talk about those as well, so quite hard to prove at times. Is counted as double because it's a passive recurring income. Yeah. So if you have a monthly income and you can prove that your monthly income meets the minimum required amount and you have sufficient proof of that, then you don't have to have double the savings in a bank. You don't have to have any savings as long as you meet, for example, there, if you're a single applicant, it says 2,300. Well, that's now 2,400. But if you have, say, in an ideal situation, pension income of more than 2,400 euros a month, and you can prove that is for the rest of your life and you've been receiving it, then you don't have to have the 2 years savings or any savings as long as you've got that passive recurring income. If you're working on a base of only savings, then as you can see from the second column there, they actually say how much you're going to need in savings, say your money in the bank. Now we can go on to talk about what qualifies savings and not in a bit. And then obviously there is that scenario where some people have passive recurring income that is doesn't meet the minimum required amount, but they do have savings as well. So in that third sort of scenario, your passive recurring income evidently is still counted as double over the 2 years because it's passive recurring. But the savings, the gap that you've got between what you're supposed to achieve would need to cover that, if that makes sense. So if you're, say for example here, a single applicant 2 years is 57,600 now. If you had passive recurring income of 50 grand, then you would need to have that 7,600 or more to make up the difference. Also, it's very advisable, if that is your situation, that when you do submit the documents, that you also submit it with an explanation of exactly why you're submitting what you're submitting and how that meets the minimum required amount.
Great stuff. Sorry about the bird noise in the background there. I hope it's not interrupting everything. You've got it being attacked by a starling or sparrow or something.
You're not supposed to throw things at birds on the internet, are you? Hang on.
No.
No.
There you go. Well, that shut it down for a little bit. There we go.
Sorry about that. Yeah,
that's all right. I don't know if people listening on their phone might be interrupting them, but that's all right. And let's see. Let's just have a quick question from Gigi. She wants to apply for. Oh, this is a first year's application. Applying for non-lucrative visa with my family, wife and 2-year-old child, has savings of about 51,000 euros. Also, I receive income from advertising sales. Should I hide my income from advertising?
you should never hide anything, but it depends what structure. Advertising sales, obviously, if you have to work to get those advertising sales, that's not going to fall into a non-lucrative visa structure, is it?
No. So that's going to be a bit of a complicated question, depending
Well,
on
not
your where it comes
if you
from.
and if you're a digital nomad. If you're advertising sales online, then maybe you don't realise it, but you could qualify for the digital nomad.
Mm-hmm. Good one. And there we go. So thanks for that question, Gigi. And Mark says good morning, by the way. He's coming on a scouting trip in April to May around Granada and Almeria, listening to the fantastic advice. And Mad David actually says, so as a couple wanting to move to Spain, would it be better putting €100,000 in a bank account to cover the 2 years? If you can afford not to
Yeah.
touch it for 2 years, then for 5 years, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, what we've seen with the renewals is that, look, so at the first application, the consulates and immigration consulates do the due diligence on the financials mainly, and they evidently understand that a lot of people won't have any assets in Spain at all, have no chance to go to Spain. I mean, we saw it a lot, obviously, straight after the pandemic when people were applying for non-lucrative visas. You know, some people we had one couple who had never been to Spain and got a non-lucrative visa. Yes, go for it. So you can use assets from the UK to prove your first financial stability, whatever you want to call it. For the renewal, you can also use assets from the UK. It's important that even all these letters that we've got, which, as you've seen, they're completely different. So it goes to show the different interpretations we have across the provinces. But every one of them have a common theme where they say if you use as any proof of income or financial stability from the UK, it has to come legally translated and be verifiable as well. So the renewals which fly through, especially if you're using savings, are the ones where people have bought the amount of money, if they can afford to, put it in a Spanish institution. It might be in a Spanish savings account. It might just be in a regular account. It might be an easy access investment in Spain. Okay, so we can talk about investments out of Spain. It's something that's in Spain, in a Spanish bank, and you can easily obtain Spanish documents from your bank, which now Spanish banks, we know, still stamp things, hand them in. Quite evidently is the minimum required amount, and these renewals seem to fly through. So, bringing your assets to Spain and just parking it there for the renewals seems to work really well if you can afford to do so.
And especially if you can show that you've got a passive income to live on at the time, and you're not spending it over that 5 years, because otherwise they might think you've got a secret job. So.
Yes, I mean, you've got to. We always say, there's no hiding anything, So if you have got that amount in the bank, and you've got a regular account with a passive income, which is a lot. If you've got that amount stored away, and you've got a smaller passive income, and you're living off of 500 a month, but you've got your savings amount there stashed away, that's absolutely fine.
So you were talking about interpretation before. I've not shown the other two letters, the ones from Almeria and Alicante. I'll put them up just in case it's possible to read them, but I think they're a bit they're sort of slightly lower quality copy. Here's the Alicante one. Let's just zoom into that, see if it's possible to see it. Oh no, it's all it's a lower quality file. Tell us what that one says that's different, and let's talk about how different places interpret the rules differently.
Yeah, so different, as again, it's important to say that everybody has their own interpretation of the rules and what you read. Certainly, I say at Upsticks, we're very strict because we don't like getting rejections. So our interpretation is that if you're working on the basis of savings, you need 2 years worth for the renewal. Okay, but the reason we've got to that is because you've seen, obviously, the letter from Malaga actually has a nice table which tells you that. Right, so it'd be foolish to then big counter that. And now this one from Alicante, for example, this one from Alicante does not address in any way, shape or form savings or a fixed lump like Malaga do, but they do they do address the monthly amount a minimum monthly amount that you have to demonstrate. And then it's a shame we can't bring it up, on the first paragraph, it then says during the time that you pretend to renew your residency. Okay. So if you are pretending to or pertain to remove your residency for 24 months, you're going to need the minimum monthly amount for 24 months. Evidently, that means if you're working on savings, it's going to be 24 months worth of 400% IPREM. And it quite clearly says it in the letter as well. Now, moving on to the other one, which was Almeria.
Carry on.
They basically.
Yep. Let's just zoom in again. No, it's all in Spanish anyway, so I wouldn't be able to translate it very quickly, but you can.
Now, the difference between Alicante and Almeria is Alicante actually asked for proof, and also proof of where that's going to be coming from. So you can see on there that they'll ask for proof of the origin of the funds. They also actually put on there that if they do ask for a certificado bancario, which is your actual bank certificate from here in Spain. It's very difficult to get one from the UK if you're still working with an account in the UK. But they want the proof. Now, Almeria actually request to see the money being paid in the last 12 months going into an account. Now, which proves that you have been receiving the minimum required amount to cover your monthly financial stability, if you want to call it that. Now, in the case of this letter, believe it or not, because it was quite hard to prove the passive income, so the person who received this letter actually had passive income, which was almost there, and savings, but it was all in the UK. And to get the proof of the money going into the account would have meant over €1,000 worth of translations, because it went into, you have to present 12 months worth of bank account statements, etc., etc. And in this case, what we actually did was transfer 2 years worth of money from a savings account in the UK, came straight to a Spanish account. We got a Spanish certificate and we handed it in with a letter saying the reason we've done this is because it's far too difficult to prove what you're asking for, but as you can see, they meet the minimum required amount for the next 2 years, and it was approved in 2 days. So it goes to show that having your assets in Spain and even receiving the income in Spain, if possible, is always a plus for renewal.
Brilliant. Any other differences between the three letters?
Going back, I think you had a question that you're going to ask regarding the marriage certificates as well, didn't you?
Yes, let's just grab that one.
Because it just mentions it in here as well, so it might be worth just mentioning that now.
Good plan. I'll get that one up. That's from Karen Stewart, one of our regular watchers. If I can find it. I've got quite a few questions from social media, actually, so if you've asked a question, stick around. We'll get through all of your questions. Okay, so Karen says, will we need to get an up-to-date copy again of our marriage certificate, like apostilled and translated, or can we use the one from our initial application?
Now, from our experience, it actually mentions it in 2 of these letters. If you, so I'm being attacked by the wind now, not the swallows. This never leave the key for the office somewhere else, because then when you have to improvise, it doesn't work.
Still, it's nice. It's a very nice view in the garden, anyway.
Yeah, flu brain. I got to the office and went, oh, I've left the key somewhere else. So marriage certificate, yes. So if the assets are joint, so if we're talking about a joint account where you're receiving the money, then normally you don't need the marriage certificate. If it's a savings account and it's joint, then you normally don't need the marriage certificate. If it's a couple and one of the couple is the person who's providing the financial stability and the other person isn't, then and it's not figured in any sort of way a joint asset would be shown, like in a joint account, then quite possibly you're going to have a marriage certificate. At which point you can't use the marriage certificate from last year. You'll have to have a new one. So you go through the same process of getting the duplicate marriage certificate, getting it apostilled, and getting it translated.
There we go.
One important point is when you're doing your due diligence, when you're presenting your financials for the renewal, is that if at any point they request more documentation, you've only got 10 days to present that. Okay. Now, in the case of, we have to read it, to be honest with you. Some places give you 10 natural days. Give you 10 días laborales. So it depends. If you get días laborales, you don't, weekends and bank holidays don't count. If they give you 10 natural days, then it's every day counts. And it really depends on the province that issues the letter to what they give you.
We've got a lot of bank holidays over here, so you've got to be quite careful about that. It could be 10 days, could be 3 weeks if you're not careful.
Yeah, I think we did it. Here we go. So here was, so for example, on the Almeria one, it says we need to present this document in the place of 10 days a partir de notificación from the time of receiving this notification. So it's actually the day after it's digitally signed. So that's when your 10 days start. Now, some letters, this is even better because they like to throw a few curveballs at us. Some letters state that you have 10 days laborales, which is in English working days, and some state naturales, which is just natural, so it's 10 days from the time, and some don't state anything. So in the event they don't state anything, then you revert back to laborales, working days. Yeah.
Can you just pull your screen over to your right a little bit, Chris? The sun has moved round and it's... There you go.
Is that better?
Keep blazing the screen. Yeah, that's a bit better. There we go.
Sorry.
Lovely. Sometimes when you wave your hand over to the left, the light completely changes. There we go. Hope everybody can see you okay.
So let me put some... Is that better?
Oh, yeah, that's better. Lovely. Okay.
The sign fell down as well. I'm not...
That's all right.
Never mind.
It says where you're from on the bottom of the screen there anyway. So, have any of your clients tried to renew with only 12 months worth of money?
No, I mean, no, we try and be as due diligent as possible, to be honest with you. We're quite strict, and we try and be as due diligent as possible before. So no, they haven't at the moment, touch wood. Luckily, we've had some very, very tight cases, but we've managed to, should we say, structure the income, the savings, or everything to meet the minimum required amount. As I say, a lot of the time, people have had a combination of two, in which case you have to really try and explain to immigration exactly what that is. I think it's very, very important to know that when you're making your application, that you have to take yourself out of your mindset. We all do this, don't we? Where we know what we've got. We know how much money we've got, we know where it comes from, we know it's fair. Yeah. But how it's presented to the person behind the screen, you've got to remember that this is done most of the time on an online government platform, and someone's going to go to work in the morning and they're going to open your file and they're going to go, what they got. Now, I've had people with quite complicated income structures and they've just thrown a letter straight back at us and gone, they haven't got enough. And they've had double because the documents weren't quite clear enough. So in that case, you've got to go, right, okay, well, this is this, this is this, this is this. When you explain it, evidently, it always comes through okay. But for people who are watching the show, who are preparing to come even for their first year, it's always a good idea to look towards the future and see how can I make my income or asset structure simple for immigration to understand it, and how possible can I get it into Spain? So if you go to somebody, there's a savings account from Spain with stamped from a bank in Spain, that's pretty much a tick in the box, If the income's coming into a Spanish account, tick in the box, so it's all about making it as simple as possible for immigration and the person on the other end of the digital phone. I'm
just going to go back to Gigi, who, remember, has an income from advertising. She said, unfortunately, can't apply for the digital nomad visa as the income from advertising is not as much. It's not enough. So,
Okay.
yeah, there we go. Sorry to hear that. And Mad David just saying he was the one who was coming and putting 100,000 euros in a bank account to cover the 2 years. It's just, can you confirm what happens after 2 years? Do we still need to keep the 100k in the bank account?
After the 5 years?
And no, I think this is during the 2 years, or when you get to year four, presumably.
After the second renewal. No. So, funny, I think you had a question about that as well. If you look at the government website about getting a larga duración, it actually doesn't mention anything about income on there either. Okay, but you would have to submit proof of how you're going to survive. Basically, when you come to do your larga duración. Because everybody's going to have some form of income or a pension they're going to be surviving on. But you wouldn't have to keep that renewal amount in the bank. You would have your income money there. So,
what about? Do you mean, David? Do you mean when you're doing your second renewal? Do you need to keep the money that you've got in there that you had for the first renewal?
Oh right, yeah, you would for your second. So you do your year 12 months, then your first renewal, and then obviously at 36 months you have to renew again. Yeah, you would have to have the money in the bank for that. And obviously the way that the economy is going at the moment, you just have to have a little bit of a consideration that IPREM may go up again.
There you go. And also a related question from Andy. Looking ahead to year 4-5 renewal, can I access the money as soon as the year 4-5 renewal is approved? I.e., I don't have to keep the money to one side until the end of year 5?
No. In theory, when you come to do your larga duración, you don't have to show those savings. So yeah, in theory, as long as you've got that money, then yeah, I mean, it's you've proven you've got it. So yeah, you could access it.
So yeah, that's a good point. After 3 years of being in Spain, you can start to spend your savings. You don't need to show as much in there. That's a good point. A lot of people thinking, yeah, I've got to keep it in there for 5 years. And I'll just put up some of the social media ones who are asking about the same thing to give them a shout out. So this was Cheryl, and I can't pronounce your surname. Cheryl, here we go. This is Guin. That's an interesting surname. Can you talk about 5-year renewal and beyond? Also, specific qualifications to be on the Spanish insurance as an American non-lucrative visa holder.
Yeah, so in terms of 5 renewals, believe it or not, we haven't done any larga duraciones yet because none of our clients have reached that point yet. Yeah. But so I'm sure no doubt that when we do get to that point, we'll probably have plenty of these letters to talk about on YouTooSpain. But if you look at the government website, it actually doesn't mention anything regarding the income requirements. But evidently, you will have to prove how you're going to support yourself in Spain. But it's not going to be as somebody with permanent, say a larga duración, permanent residency, then it's not going to be the same requirements as during the temporary residency period.
Probably more like 100% rather than 400%, or 150 maybe.
It'll be very similar to the EU platform that any other province uses. So we know that different provinces have slightly different requirements for the EU platform. So yeah, depending on the province you're in, it would relate to what somebody from the EU would be requested for residency, I'd imagine.
So what about this insurance question? I'm not sure I understand what she's asking. Do you?
Yeah, I mean, it's also specific for qualifications on Spanish insurance as American. So as an American NLV holder, you have the same requirements as any NLV holder. Now, so your insurance policy must be a complete policy with no co-payments and no what they call them, they have to be able to treat everything. Flu brain.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You know what I mean. No exemptions. That's the word I'm looking at.
Yeah.
No exemptions. So yeah, what you'll find there, Cheryl, is that now, I mean, one good thing, if there is anything good thing about what's happened the last couple of years after Brexit, then, the insurance companies have really jumped on the back of this, and they've got specific products which immigration seem to like. You know, many years ago, to get a residency policy, you had to present realms and realms of paperwork. But nowadays, most insurance companies, if you approach them and tell them exactly what you're doing, have a specific product which fits the residency structure in NLVs.
Brilliant. I'm just going to pop up Owen Hazel so you can get a shout out for you. Owen, you're asking more or less the same question. He says they'll be 63 years old, so they're 4 years away from their state pension. We'll have some savings perhaps, and our private drawdown pensions. It's basically saying what savings and or income do we need to prove when applying for permanent residency. He said at first this is vital for us because we won't have a passive income at that point, but then he sent another message underneath that saying we do have some savings perhaps and our private drawdown pensions.
Right, so, and I mean, it's the savings is going to take you over to, if you are doing the 5 years. I mean, if you're looking at if I understand it, doing the NLV is it 8 years on savings? I mean, it's a lot of savings you're going to need, isn't it, to get through that period?
Yeah, but they do have private drawdown pensions.
Oh,
so
right, okay.
maybe you can take that one early, Owen. Draw that down at 63, and yeah, you might end up with a lower amount. You will end up with a lower amount than if you did it at 67. That's one for our tax and pensions man who's on next week.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who've got obviously pension pots with tax liabilities if they become resident in Spain and stuff like that. It's all stuff that you want to look at. You might be able to might be worth having a chat with him about the renewals, and after this show, leading on to it, seeing how best to position yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely questions to be answered there, and also about the digital nomad visa. A lot of people asking the tax questions there, so we'll be answering those next week. Let's get the
another one for your guys, actually, the currency guys, which I was asking was about when receiving pensions in a Spanish bank account. You know, how's it figure, so it makes it easy for immigration to see that it is a pension and stuff like that. I think we spoke about that, didn't we, once as well?
Yes, that is interesting. They'd have to maybe get a letter from Smart Currency Exchange confirming exactly what that is, and maybe some back paperwork from that showing it coming from the pension to the. You've got to get the sort of the timeline of where the money came from.
Yeah, so if you put yourself, when you're doing the renewals and even the initial application, if you put yourself sort of in our shoes for somebody who's looking at the paperwork and revising it, who doesn't understand anything about your situation, the easier it looks for us, the easier it's going to look for immigration. So if there's a payment going into the bank that says pension, pension, and if it relates to a pension, if it says pension legal and general, and then we've got a P60, it says pension legal and general with the annual amount and a monthly payment, it's like, yay. You know, it's that simple, you know. But it's when sometimes, and it's not, people don't realize because it's not their fault and they don't need to realize, but I've seen it many a times where the income going into the account, there's no relevance on the P60, whatever proof we've got. And I'm like, well, how am I supposed to match the two up? It's, you know, we need, you know, so the easier you can make it for yourself in terms of A meets B, it's easier for the person in immigration to understand.
Brilliant. Let's get Karen's question up here. Karen Fay, my question is, I have successfully got a renewal approved, but I can't get a fingerprint appointment for my card at Alicante, and my 30 days is up this week. Will this matter? Crying emoji.
No, don't. Now, don't. I already get shot on the internet for saying this, but look, at the moment, Alicante, every office that we've been to have understood that it's extremely difficult to get an appointment within 30 days. Okay, or even book one within 30 days of getting your visa and landing in Spain. And so far, we haven't had a problem with anybody who's gone over the 30 days. What could be a problem is if your visa expires. So certainly don't let your visa expire. But Alicante is one of the regions which is extremely difficult to get appointments in.
There you go. I believe this is for renewal. Does your visa? Oh, your visa runs out at the end of
renewal.
Yeah.
Again, we haven't had any problems with renewal. We haven't actually had any, to be honest, any renewals which have gone over 30 days. But in terms of Toma de Huella, which is the type of appointment that she's looking for, we haven't had any problems going over the 30 days. But for a renewal, we haven't done one over the 30 days. We have with an NLV, but not the renewals. So,
do you get a new card then? You get a new TIE card, and you have to do your fingerprint again?
Yes, I suppose we should go through that process, shouldn't we? So what happens is, I should have really prepared one for you, Skatz, but when you get, excuse me, when you get your renewal, there's a digital notification and a digital letter, or if you've done it yourself and you've provided a postal address, you'll get a letter, which basically shows the approval period that you've renewed for. Yeah, this letter is called a resolución. Now, this is exactly the same sort of document that people got during the withdrawal agreement when they applied online on the Mercurio platform. They got a resolución, which says this is your proof of being resolved. You've got your residency. It's the same as when EU family members get approved. They get a resolución as well. The renewals are no different. So with that document, with this resolución, you then have to go with that, the taxes paid application forms, and then if you've changed your address, a new certificate, Padron certificate, you have to do a new fingerprint appointment. So you have to go back to the police station and hand all that in and hand your old card in, and you're issued a document called a resguardo. This resguardo is proof that you've renewed your card, and 45 days later, you go back and pick up your new card.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks for that question, Karen. Andy Cooper is asking, how much notice do you require Chris to get in touch with you to start the process for the non-lucrative visa? They want to retire in June and move in September.
Book a call now. We had to, unfortunately, for February at the moment, we just blocked the calls out because there was quite an avalanche at the beginning of the year, and we're quite conscientious also on what we do take on and what we don't take on in terms of volume, because we want to be able to treat all our clients, well. So but if you book a call in now for March, and then if we can bring it forward, we certainly will do. So a lot of the calls which have been booked for March, we've already brought forward. But we just want to make sure that everything's under control. So yeah, book a call in right now, and just write in the notes that you come from the show.
Brilliant. Okie dokie. Let's get the next question up then. Oh, this is from Ian Fleming. It's not the same. It's not the same Ian Fleming.
Can I thank Ian for his review?
Yes, of course. Go for it.
Cheers, Ian. Thank you. Great review. Thank you on that.
He's called me Sir Skatz. Should be Sir Ian Fleming as well. And if you have a personal pension pot that you draw down from, as opposed to a pension in payment, can a statement of those funds, along with confirmation that it can be taken, be enough to evidence IPREM at renewal?
Good question. Yeah, if you're receiving that income and it meets the minimum required amount, that shouldn't be a problem.
Brilliant.
You can prove. So as we've seen from, and I believe Ian's in Murcia, but as we've seen from Almeria, they actually they ask for past proof of passive income being received.
Excellent. Next question. I'll move. Do you have to leave at 11, Chris? Have you got?
No, because I've misplaced my keys and I'm at home. I've got an extra 15 minutes. So you're fine.
No, all right. Well, we'll zip through these anyway, so that we're not keeping anyone for too long. Got a question from.
I might have to plug you in though, Skatz. That's all.
Oh yeah. Oh, you're on your phone.
Yeah. Sorry. Right, we're still at 17%. We're all right.
Oh, brilliant. Yes, we'll zip through them just in case. So this is about the renewal date. Is it a year after your NLV was approved when you entered Spain, or when you've had your TIE a year?
Good question. So generally, the TIE card, your residency start date, is issued from the entry stamp date in your passport. Okay. So that's the start date to your TIE card. So you'll have your initial visa for 3 months. You'll enter within those 3 months, and then within 30 days, you'll register for your TIE card. And that entry date, the stamped entry date, is when your TIE card starts. Other exceptions to the rule we've seen when people haven't managed to get entry stamps and they haven't managed to do a declaración de entrada and stuff like that. Well, what the extranjería has tended to do is actually put the start date, the residency at the start date of the visa. So we've seen that a few times in people who've driven from France and stuff, in Almeria specifically. So the start date of your residency is evidently the date on your TIE card, generally your stamped entry date. When you come to renew, you have from 60 days before that date and up to 90 days after that date. So you've got a 5-month window to submit your application. What we have found with the renewals is that, believe it or not, the applications that they seem to attend to now come out randomly, and anybody who does our job will tell you that immigration is a world of its own. So, you know, you can never tell when things are going to be released. But people who seem to submit the application on the cusp of the card expiring seem to get a faster response to people who are quite conscientious and do it earlier. So that's been our experience so far. But yeah, that's you have got a 5-month window.
That's good to know. Okay, yeah. Thanks for that question, Waz. We'll move on to the next one. Carl Smith. What did Carl want to know? Let's have a look. just while we're waiting, Anton Kerry says, Chris, it sounds like you need to sample some of the wine from that little bodega from that lovely day in Competa.
It's all gone. I already sampled that.
All gone.
and the French wine, that's all gone. That's
fabulous. Okay, Carl asks, how much money do I need in the Spanish bank for 3 people who all live together? We have a villa paid for worth 400,000 euros. Can this be included in our wealth?
Good question. Very good question. So, as we say, we've got. I'm not going to pretend I've got this in my head. I have got my notes here. Look, this is the second show in a row I've got notes in front of me, just so you're impressed. This is
I can't believe it.
I do well, I don't know. It's good. So for family of 3, it's 43,200 euros a year, which on renewal would be 86,400 euros. Okay. So that's the monthly income for a family of 3 is 3,600 euros. Now, so that answers that question. Can you use a property? Well, that's actually a very good question, because on the government website, it actually says for renewals that you can include propiedades, a proof of owning a property on there. But there's absolutely no sort of calculation or any indication of how much of your renewal money would be considered with a property. And every time that we have submitted, because we always submit what's a document called a nota simply, which is land registry proof of you actually currently owning the property. So this is like a receipt you can get from the land registry. It's got a date on it, and it'll say the current title holders of this property are. Yeah. If someone owns a property, we always submit that with our renewals. And quite often they'll come back with what we've seen from Malaga. We want to see monthly income of XYZ. So unfortunately, we fall into this realm of there is the law, then there's the interpretation on the government's website, and then, as we've seen, 3 letters from immigration are completely different, and it's their interpretation as well. So, albeit that you can submit certainly proof of having a property, and I think anybody who can't quite meet the grade with the financials who has a property definitely has to submit proof of that. There's nobody, it's an it depends
scenario.
Really. Yeah.
There we go. That's hopefully answered your question, Carl.
We can't tell. If someone says, I've got a property worth 400,000. Okay, well, 400,000 relates to 20 grand. We can't do that, because there's no way of knowing. Whereas with IPREM and income, we can, because obviously we've got IPREM.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Final question from social media from Kim Roon. Is the application fee the same on renewals as it is to start with, i.e. £500 per person?
No, it's not. So there's two taxes for the non-lucrative visa renewals. The first one is a tax you have to pay to the government to make the actual application, which I believe is 1740. I should have. I've got it here on my computer. Shouldn't I pay enough of them? So it's around 17 and a half euros for that.
Yep.
And then once you've got your approval through, and it's been approved, then you have to go to register the TIE card, as we explained before, and that's 16 euros and 40 cents. Oh no, it's not. I'm lying. It's 19 euros and something. So
yeah. It's a fairly small amount anyway. It's definitely not £500.
No. And it's definitely not. I suppose I have got my laptop here. I suppose I really should have had that up.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's around 17 for the renewal of the government, around 19 something for the TIE card.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, here's a good question on Skatz. Can we renew student visa after study? If we can, for how long can we renew it? What period?
Well, I don't know, to be honest. We don't really do student visas, to the honest truth.
Oh, okay.
It's an estancia rather than a temporary residency visa, so it's not something that we commonly deal with.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Sorry about
that. Yeah, it's all right. We can maybe get the answer from, I don't know, maybe Rochelle will know. Does she do student visas? I don't know.
I think Rochelle might know one. That'd be a good one for Rochelle. She might know that one.
Yeah. Get in touch with
us. Can I give a shout out to Rochelle, because we're always constantly, she's like my agony aunt and I'm her agony aunt. So when we shout each other, always having a WhatsApp, always having a Facebook, like, I can't believe they did this, and this is crap.
Brilliant. Yes, hello to Rochelle, and we should have her back on the show again. She's not been on, certainly not this year yet, but there we go. It's about time, isn't it? Find something for her to talk about. And
€19.30 it is for the stage 2 when you go to register your new TIE card.
There we go. And Big Tam, would they be happy showing 3 months Airbnb as a place of residence as part of your initial NLB application?
As a part of the good question. So part of the initial application, when you go to the consulate, you don't need proof of, I know like for applicants in the States, a lot of people experience that you do need proof of long-term rental contracts and stuff like that. In the UK, you don't, you need a correspondence address. Okay. So many a times we've used our office for people who are coming to Malaga as a correspondence address.
Mm-hmm.
And it hasn't been a problem. For people going elsewhere, we have a correspondence addresses that we use. The problem will be when you get here, depending on where you're going. So areas like Malaga aren't as strict as places like Alicante in terms of requesting a padron certificate.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So when you come to register the visa, what you've got to remember is that, I meant to do a video on this actually, is that you have a registration with immigration, and the person behind the desk only sees whatever information is on that registration, and it's their interpretation of what paperwork you need to give them to prove where, if there's any differences between what you're presenting and what's on that screen, if they're going to give you the card or not. What I mean by that is if you previously had an NIE number or something like that, and the NIE number was registered to a completely different province or a different address, you can't guarantee that the consulate or immigration are going to update it with your application for an MLV. You think they would, wouldn't you? But they don't. Yeah. Okay. So if you've only got a temporary address when you get to Spain, and your address doesn't match up with the documents you're providing when you come to register your visa, then you're going to need a padron certificate.
In which case you wouldn't be able to do it with an Airbnb.
Because you wouldn't be able to do an Airbnb, exactly. So the initial application, no. Can you get approval on an Airbnb address? I'd definitely say you'd need permission from the person's address who's giving you the Airbnb. You can't just use anybody's address. So you need their permission. But yeah, you can get initial application through. You can, but when you get here, can you register it?
Good answer. So Susan McGee, hello Susan. Currently filling out forms for an NLV for myself and my husband. We are confused how we fill out the EX01 and the 79052. It's only our personal details. And I think one of us or both of us should do a video all about how to fill in forms. I've had a few questions on social media about this. A lot of people confused about what to put in which box. So yeah, tell us, Chris.
And if you're a client of ours, you get a nice big folder. They're all filled in, and we actually UPS it to you, so you don't have to worry about it.
There you go. So, where do you put your? Maybe she's asking just where do you put your personal details? Is that the question, Susan? Just what the Spanish is for your first name and second name. What does it say? Apellido? Is that your first name or surname?
Sorry, apellido. Yeah, because sometimes apellido is surname and nombre is first name.
There you go. Is that what you wanted to know, Susan? I'll wait for an answer on that one. Let's just cancel that one. There we go. And anything else? What else do we need? Oh yeah, documents. What do you take in for your renewal? We didn't go to that question. Do you need your S1, private healthcare, that kind of thing?
That's a very good point. I tell you, I just need to plug you in, Skatz. You're giving me 1 second. I'll just get a cable.
Okay.
Sorry about this.
Yeah, no problem.
Not very well prepared.
I'll just say hello to all of the names that we've got on the screen that have come up that we haven't mentioned. Karen James. Oh, renewal online or in person? What's the easiest way to renew in the Murcia region? Did you hear that one, Chris?
I did. It's by calling Upsticks.
Yes. Can it be done online?
So, yeah, the renewals are done. Each province evidently has its own immigration offices, which does they do allow that they're really trying to cut back on them and force everybody to go online. So at the moment, I don't know if there's any appointments in Murcia. All of ours are done on the online government platform. So if you have a digital certificate and obviously immigration consider that people who live here all have digital certificates, then you can use that to present your renewal application on an online platform called Mercurio. A representative or somebody employed to do it would use exactly the same platform to present your renewal to immigration. If not, then you have to book an appointment at your immigration office, take the documents with you and present it there. Now, it's important to know when you do go and present it to the immigration office, that person who's at the desk will do the initial due diligence and see if you're missing anything, but that's not the person who makes the decision. That goes back to immigration at the back, where they sit there and make their decision.
There we go. Thank you for that. Susan was asking, this is about the form filling, does it only require your personal details?
For the initial NLV application?
Let's get back to what she was saying. I've got to go back one. Yes, it's for the NLV. It's the initial application.
Yeah, so you have to. There's 3 forms. Your national visa application form, Solicitud de Visado Nacional, that has various. I mean, there's quite a lot that you need to put in there. So there's your personal details, your address, where you're going to be moving, your ID document details. They also ask you for an expected entry date into Spain, etc., etc. The Model EX01 asks for similar details, and it's only a 2-page document. The difference being that the Model EX01 will ask you on the second page for the type of residency you're looking for. So the EX01 is specific to non-lucrative visa. At the back, you'll see there's some bullet points as to whether it's initial application, etc. And
lost you, Chris. You've frozen. While we wait for you to come back, have you been cut off?
Oh no, I'm here.
Oh, you're there. Yeah, you've started moving again.
Did
you have a phone call? That
so
happens.
It does, yeah. I'm going to show you. Can't call me. Now and we got to 790, which is a tax form.
Mm-hmm.
That asks for name, address, initial. You have to tick which tax you want to pay, initial residency, and yeah. So yeah, quite complex forms.
Yeah. Okay then. And let's see. We have another question. Where's that? Oh. Hanson Care said, best advice to anyone applying, thinking of applying, currently filling forms, go via Chris. Best thing you'll ever do moving to Spain. Plug. Yes, but seriously do it. Thank you for that. They're lovely. Oh, yes. One from Ask. On applying for NLV, can we show the €28,000 on our bank account of origin country? He's from India, or should we transfer the fund to a Spanish account?
28,800 euros is for a single applicant now. Mm-hmm. But you can use for an account initial application, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Would you need a translation of that?
Yeah, you'd need a translation of that. Obviously, you can get, if it's not in euros and you can get anything from your bank which shows the value in euros, even better.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they'll offer, it depends. I mean, all banks around the world are different, but some banks would offer an official conversion or an offer of a conversion, you know, and if you could take that, evidently it's just what we always go back to, it's making it easy for them to understand, you know.
Brilliant. Here's a good question. Can we travel to other EU countries on the Spanish digital nomad visa?
Well, good question. You'd be residing in Spain, but you can travel on holiday. You can't travel to reside in another country, but you can certainly travel on holiday.
Having the visa doesn't change your travel requirements in any of the other EU countries. No. Only if you get citizenship. You get more rights on that, but yeah. So it's just the normal 9180 rule for you. Mad David says, how much money do you need for years 3, 4, and 5? Or do you just mean there's years 2 and 3, and then there's a years 4 and 5 that you apply for, and you need the same for those two periods, don't you?
Yeah. So at the moment, people who are going for their second renewal, if it's a couple, would need 72,000. With what we discussed before, and then obviously just we always say to people, just, you know, look, just if IPREM goes up, so monetary requirements. So we've seen it's gone up quite a bit this year. So it's always good to have a little bit of a buffer if possible.
Brilliant. I've got an answer for Bev. This is an easy one, bit of an offside question. Chris, do you assist with getting residency when I'm piggybacking off my partner who has an Irish passport? That's a big yes, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I did, Bev. So that's an easy question to answer. And Susan McGee says, thank you, guys. No, thank you, Susan, for your question. That's me run out of questions, I think. Let me just have a look. Yes, all of the questions on all of my screens are gone. Anything else we want to say? Any more document? Oh, I asked about the S1 and private healthcare. You do still need to be carrying on your private healthcare if you were.
Oh yeah,
if that's what you have for year
let's
one.
talk about the document requirements for to actually do the renewal. I suppose that'd help, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Excuse me, sorry. So you
need a whiskey, according to somebody on here.
I'm certainly gonna
single malt.
Crack open the single malt, lemons, and the cloves might come out tonight.
Yeah.
Gotta get fit for Monday. So when you do submit your renewal, whether it be online or immigration, you evidently need your application form, which is your model EX01. Yeah, the same as what you had for your non-lucrative visa. Except, as we said, at the back of the second page of that modello, it asks you if you're initial applicant, renewing, if you're with children, etc., etc. So it has to be filled out correctly. As representatives, you have to also present documents which proves that you can legally represent somebody if you're doing it online. And then aside from that, you have to present the taxes paid, which we mentioned earlier on. And that sort of gives you the right to then be on the platform and actually submit your documents. As a third country national, it's very important to know that all third country national residency and NIE applications, you have to present a full copy of your passport. Lots of people say to me, why? Because now I've got a TIE card, I don't get stamped in and out, etc., etc. What they do request a full copy.
Was that a copy of every page?
Every page, copy of every single page. So I'm just battling with a phone charger. After evidently it's good now. Although the issuing body is is immigration, it's always good to have a copy of your TIE card anyway, front and back. Proof of where you live. Well, proof if you haven't updated your address, so then you may not need to present a padron. We always say it's a good idea, and it's also a very good idea to present a padron if you're living together and have dependency financially on someone else as well, where you present a padron which proves that as well. And then evidently we've got the financials that you need to prove. Any documents which aren't in Spanish need to be legally translated. and your healthcare. Now, the healthcare, which is something we haven't touched on yet. It's important to have continuous healthcare. You can't stop and start your healthcare and have gaps. Okay, you have to continue. There's nothing stopping you from changing companies. You can certainly get a better offer from someone else who's got a product which fits the bill. Then you can certainly switch, jump ships. That's not a problem. But you have to have your continuous healthcare. On renewal, submit a submission of a certificate which proves it is annually renewable, because you don't get a certificate for 2 years. Okay, I know I've seen some cases of people nobody will give me a certificate for 2 years. We haven't had any problems with certificates to say annually renewable. What we have had is immigration come back to us on 2 occasions and ask for proof that the person maintained their healthcare during the residency in Spain, i.e. we've had to prove they've got a current policy in place, which is going to be renewed at the end of the year during the renewal period, and we had to get a certificate from the insurer to say when that started and that they've continually kept the payments, that policy in place. So it's not often that happens, but we have seen it happen.
What about the S1? Do they just assume that's continuing?
Now, for the S1, that's continued. So you'll have the good news about the S1 is that if you once you get your S1 registered, you'll get a document which says that you've got Derecho a Asistencia Sanitaria. Okay, this certificate is what you need to submit to immigration, which proves you've got the right. You can also, if you've got copies of your cards, you've already got your card, you've registered your card, etc., etc. It can't harm to. We always say, check them across, and we put it all in one big PDF and off it goes. And that's fine, because immigration can actually check with Social Security that is still the case, and I'll just use the details.
Oh, you're frozen again. There we go. Just in case we don't get Chris back, if you do have any more questions. Oh, you're back again, Chris. Sorry, you do keep freezing slightly, but I'm getting everything that you're saying apart from when you exactly freeze there.
So the S1, as long as it's registered and you've got proof of that, that's fine. What you can't do is just submit an S1. So if you're in that period where you've had private healthcare and you're in the point of registering your S1 and you haven't received the registration confirmation, you can't use that for renewal. Okay.
That's good to know. Any other documentation you haven't mentioned? I think you've
said everything. I mean, what we always, in case of, they come back and ask for any questions. Well, obviously, we spoke about the marriage certificate. Depending on the structure of the assets, you may need to, or may not.
Okay. Question from...
in the case of children, obviously we don't get that many children who are under the NLV renewals. But in the case of children, you have to submit proof that they've been in school, etc., etc. So you get a certificate from whatever school they attend, just to prove that they've been in school.
Nice one. Okay. Akshay, I'll get your name right. Can we enrol in a university for masters while on the NLV? So this is about switching to a student visa.
I mean, you can, again, it's not something that we really deal with, to be honest with you, but, presumably, if you're legally in Spain, there's nothing stopping you from switching to a student visa, as long as you can do so. But honest truth is we don't have a lot to do with students.
Okay. That's good.
Apart from we do the odd TIE card registration for people who've got their own visas and just need a hand getting that part done, but aside, in terms of the application, we don't do many. Well, we don't do any, too much.
Oh, this is Chris Hardman. Did you ask a question before? Oh yeah, hang on, I've got the first part of it now. We own a property in Almeria, so given what the Almeria Immigration Office require in terms of monthly income proof, would an NLV application based purely on savings be successful? And then he goes on to say, both my wife and I are 52 years old. We have sufficient savings beyond the 5 years IPREM requirements.
Yeah, you'd be fine. Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah. So, I mean, the only thing goes back to what I was saying before is I'd highly advise that you put your savings in Spain once you're here. You don't need it for the first year. You can use savings from the UK. It's not a problem at all. But once you are here, then I would bring those savings to Spain. and you get a nice stamped document from your Spanish bank, which the immigration officers like to see.
Right. One final question then on here from Andy Coakley. And am I correct in thinking that PHI can be paid on a monthly basis after the first year? Is that private health insurance?
With monthly paid PHI. So as we know with the consulates at the initial application, they like to see a full payment of the policy for the first year and a certificate to prove that it's in place for when you enter Spain. And renewals, we've had clients which have switched to monthly payments, and so far, again, we haven't had a problem. Again, that comes with the caveat that every immigration office is different and every case is different. So you just have to be aware that if you're the one that gets a letter that says we want to see it paid in full for the year, then you're going to have to pay it in full for the year. But
there we go. He just goes on to say, I had to bring my daughter over on an NLV because the college she is studying at is a private one and not approved by the Ministry of Education. Oh dear.
Right.
There we go. And a late question actually from Gary Stokes. Can we move to the Convenio Especial after a year one and use that as proof of health cover?
If you get accepted then you'll have a document that proves that you've got access, and that shouldn't be a problem.
Do you have to
It's up to 12. You'd need to be a resident for 12 months to even make the application first. So you would have had to go through your renewal, I would say, because there would be no time to do it without having your renewal in place.
So that's very difficult.
Yeah, at the point that you again, we haven't done any Convenio Especial renewals, so I couldn't tell you whether it was if there's any kickback from immigration or not on those. But in theory, as long as you've got your healthcare in place, it shouldn't be a problem. But yeah, I mean, after 12 months, if you're in the application process of getting a Convenio Especial, then you're still going to have to renew with private healthcare initially.
There we go. And we'll take this as the last question. And then we'll let you get off, Chris, so you can have a hot toddy. It's Ash K again. Can we enroll in a university for masters while on the NLV without switching to the student visa? As I will be paying, so he'll be paying for his masters. So can he be being a student while on the NLV? As long as he's not working.
If you're not working, I can't see why not. And if you've got a legal residency and you're not working, I can't see why not.
Yeah, great stuff. Okay then. So if anybody has any more questions, then put them in the comments on YouTube, not on Facebook, because then people can't read them that have been watching the program, and we'll answer them as soon as you can. And in a moment, I'll tell you what's on next week's show. But before that, let's say a massive thank you to Chris. Give him a big virtual hug for being so wonderful as usual, and get well soon, Chris.
All right, it sounds a lot worse than it actually is. It's just it is what it is. But I apologise for the coughing and spluttering.
That's all right. I know that you always work through these kind of things anyway. So there we go. We'll be talking in 2 weeks about cars. We'd planned to do that this week, but we thought this one was more important and urgent at the time. So we'll be getting your foreign plates changed to Spanish, updates on everything on that, and possibly about the UK driving licence swap situation. With any luck, there might be some news then.
Yeah, let's hope so. We've got the eco stickers, funny flashy lights with GPS, and car registrations, driving licenses. Lots to talk about. So
much to talk about. After doing that program about eco stickers, I was thinking, I must get an eco sticker for my car. I was driving yesterday and I noticed we've already got one on the windscreen. It's got a big circle with a big C in it. So that's my eco sticker. Didn't realise I've had it. All of these, we've had the car for a year.
They always remind me of the old tax discs. Do you remember, you used to get the taxes? So it's they always remind me of those. But yeah, no, it's it'd be something good to talk about, and we can tell everybody how to get them. And maybe we should give an eco sticker prize away. Get an eco sticker for one of the viewers. And
that's a good idea, isn't it?
There you go.
Should we give a prize away? We haven't given any prizes away this year.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, we've got some very nice new notebooks that have just come and some new folders.
Oh, lovely. Yes, I've got one of your new folders. They're lovely. How about
Yeah.
Andy Coakley? He's been asking loads of really good questions on here, and I don't think we've given you a prize before, have we, Andy? So
Right.
get in touch with what? Send an email to you, Chris. At was it info at or support at?
Yeah, support.
Upsticks.
If you send to support@upsticks.es, then drop us your let us know that you're a prize winner, Andy, and we'll get you a folder or a notebook across to you.
Brilliant. Of
If
course.
you're in the UK, we'll send you a folder because that classes documents, and if we send notebooks, then it looks like a present, so we'll have to send that to people in Spain.
Yeah. Good stuff. Okay then, Chris. Thank you again so much. And
See you later.
We'll see you soon. Take care of yourself.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
There we go. Well, wasn't that lovely? And I hope Chris gets better soon. That's a nasty cough. But there'll be a hot toddy, I'm sure, on its way. Don't forget to click on the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. They're somewhere down here if you don't know. And you will be the first to know what's coming up each week on the live shows and on the midweek videos. Next Saturday is the return of Brett Hanson, who is a senior partner at Blevins Franks. They are wealth management experts, and we'll be talking all about that, all about tax. I know lots of you have tax questions. The video that I made with him last year, I think it was March 22, it was one of the most watched live shows ever. So I'm really looking forward to having him back on the virtual settee around the virtual pool of YouTooSpain and the virtual green screen of YouTooSpain. As I said, you can ask questions in advance on our Facebook group or our Facebook page. There are two of them, YouTooSpain and YouTooSpain. And I will see you next Saturday morning on this show at our regular time of 9 o'clock in the morning if you're in the UK or Ireland or the Canaries, or 10 o'clock in the morning if you're in Spain or Central Europe, or very, very, very early in the morning if you're in the USA, or late in the evening if you're in Australia. You can work all of those things out yourself. Don't forget, though, that you can get, to relax you, have a free yoga session or a meditation class with my lovely wife, Liz. She has a YouTube channel called YouTube Yoga and Aromatherapy. The link, of course, is below with all of the other ones. Use those links because you can save money and you'll be benefiting YouTooSpain at the same time at no cost to you. It's a win-win-win-win. So that is all for this week. Thank you, everybody, for all of your questions on the live chat. You're all very, very lovely. Someone pass around the special Visa renewal biscuits. They've got 800% of the normal amount of chocolate chips in them. And peace and love to you all. Peace and love. Oh, let's do one more little cosmic dance. Let's find the music. Where's it gone? Here it is over here. Get ready to dance. Bye for now.